Yeah. Yes.
Shir Samech Tes, Aleph of Sivan, on page Lamed Gimel, Yir Tosh Shir Samech Tes. What do we got?
Here's the number of the page.
Yeah.
Lamed Gimel.
Alright, so we were we were discussing the Klolos movement that Atzilus was a mamuta before in our and here in the Rotzen and in the Gile HaRotzen and Shochs HaRotzen being Eurein Seif Gile HaRotzen actually ben Yivroim of Biyah. And we saw a shayla that how can there be in Aina, which is Mamish Bali Gvul, Legabi the Nivroim, from Bali Gvul Mamish, how can there be a Mamuta Beineha? In other words, we're trying to find in the Indian of Atzilas how it could possibly be an Indian Shal Mamuta. And we saw that Ladas Hapardes, what he was of the opinion that the Kalim of Atzilas are only koach hagvul. Well, that's an asinus koach that it should be gilei hagvul michutz la'atzilas. And he learned that the oil was also in our even though there was a even slapshel gilei ha'er b'tech ha'kelim. Or the kelim, I'm sorry, the oilis and atzilas were also in our even ein safe. And the whole Hagbola of Atzilus was really only benegir to Biyah the Achrei Atzilus, but not that there's really any Hagbola, the Papoya. However, it was more difficult to feed the Dasa Rizal and the Dasa the Alter Rebbe, Mover be the famous Igeras HaKoidesh, that there the Alter Rebbe writes that the Kelim Amamish Gvul Kipshutei. And we put the Lashon, the Rizal, the Reish Lamed Vov Pasois, with the whole Dikduki Ha'inyonin that we saw, and so therefore it becomes very difficult to understand that Lafida the Eight Chaim, that the Das, the Kelim, Amami Sha'in from Gvul, and therefore, and even Yosem is there, we saw that there, Magbilim Es Ha'oyer, that even though it's Ha'in from Oyer, nonetheless, it's Meir ain't safe, it's Meir B'toch HaKeili, and then it becomes Oyer a Chesed, Oyer a Gvura, and that's why we call them Spheres Ladas Apardas, that they're Magbil, Misapres, it's a Bilti Bagvul, in order that it should be Gvul Mamish, and then he says, well, not Lav Gvul Mamish, but al kaponim legabi der shirish aposhet einin from Gvul, v'gam legabi elam es biyar einin from Gvul, and so we're mafalpo in the Indian back and forth until we reached the point that we said where the Pardas brought the Moshel at the Mayim with the Mayim up shooting when they're nickness beteh a colored kli with a gavon with a color. So then the water, which is shooting, takes on the color of the kli. And like he writes in Shah Dagdo, the Pardas, and so we saw that was the Das HaPardas when they get to the Akbola of the Oyer in the Kelim. However, according to Kola Ashitas, the Kelim, one way or another, are Puyo, A'inim from Akbola in the Oyer. So if the Oyer is still A'inim from ain't safe, and it's still A'inim from Bilti Bagvul, L'cheira Eino Imuvan Eich Efshel HaHagbil Es Ha'era Bilti Bagvul. That's where we're holding Be'era. On the Omer Lamed Gimel. How is a child to say that anything for that matter can be Magbil, the Era Bilti Bagvul? because there's no gvul can be better klal to the bilti bagvul, and how could it possibly in any way limit it? It just has no error klal. Mamish lagabi the bilti bagvul. So therefore we saw that the inyan hu kiyodua da ha'er da achilas כמו שהער אין צייף צמצם את עצמי לי, אז נמשו בחינת האור מצומצמת לבד. We put the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe over there in the Hagoy in Perek Pais. We showed you the Lashon that the Alter Rebbe says that the air is nimshach into the Kelim, the Chabad, the Atzilas, al-idei tzimtzum, tzimtzumim rabim. So we saw the key to the whole inyan is that the oil of Atzilas, well, that's how the Eibishter is mitzamtzim, Kaviyochel es atzmei, and the inyan von es atzmei, the Tashka, the oil is miyein hamoya, so therefore Kaviyochel, it's also like the Eibishter, even though it doesn't mean atzmusa is part, it means only the oil, that it should be a ha'ora mitzumtzemes, only of the oil itself, a ha'ora. In other words, in the oil itself, only a luminescence of the oil, and in that gufa it's been metzumtam. V'hainu she'eina nimshe b'chinas etzem ha'oil ki im ha'ora levad. In other words, in oirish gufa, it's well known that we have the inyan from different targets in oil we call atzmiyim, legabi madregas yoter lamata miyem. And what do we mean by saying yoter lamata? The oil itself becomes a ha'ora bilvad, it becomes only a luminescence from the originally intense and more gili ha'etzem form of the oil. So therefore said that it's not the etzem of the oil, meaning it's not even the etzem of the oil k'moishu ba'ak, ela it's only a ha'ora levad from that oil. Va'ara gufa I b'chinas ha'ora mitzum tzemen, that it's been limited and held back, literally, by the Eibishter. V'gam yesh b'chinas parsa bein eira in seif ha'ma'atzil or bein ha'atzilas ha'kamoisha is boer. And in addition to the tzimtzum, well, a tzimtzum is the thing that occurs kaviyochel in the very essence of the oil itself, that the Eibishter limits and holds back the gili of the oil. V'yiru parsa, that's another inyan. The parsa is adova ha'malim al ha'oil. In other words, the parsa is al derech the inyan of the kelim, that is like a shoyrosh, it comes from a similar shoyrosh to the inyan of the kelim, and it's a dova noisaf of the oil, and it's also magbil the oil. And as well known, the difference between a tzimtzum and a parsa is that the tzimtzum is only that's in the etzem or atzmai, and that causes only a ha'ora to be nimshah, like we just saw. But in the parsa, even though it's only a ha'ora which is made after the parsa, but the etzem or kamoisha who is mislabi in the parsa. It's only that the parsa being as it is, a dova kovid or a dova bedera kli, then it's able to be magbuild the oil, like we see a curtain, when the oil is made into the curtain, then the oil on the other side is almost like a not recognizable oil, but it is soft of the same, it's the same oil.
So we require both the parsa and a tzimtzum?
Huh?
So we require both the parsa and a tzimtzum?
Yeah. For this type of inyan we're talking about here, we require both. Yeah. That's what the Rebbe said. That it's not enough just the inyan from tzimtzum, because like we said, the tzimtzum is only gerem a ha'ora. And a ha'ora, sof, is still a gila of the original etzem, because a ha'ora from an etzem is a very essential type of gila. Like we see in oil me'amoya is ma'in hamoya. Ve'ila de'ina from parsa is the oil which is made on the other side of the parsa, like we call it on many occasions, called the oil shel tulda. It's like a born-off thing, it's like a thing that's not recognizable the connection between them, even though it really is the same oil. In other words, that the parsa breaks down the whole intensity of the gilui into almost like another form of gilui. The ilul tzimtzum is only matish, as it were, the etzem inyan of the atzmias, but it leaves a ha'ora me'ein ha'moya. That was the Rebbe, in order to get to the type inyan that we want here, we have to have both. We have to have both the tzimtzum and the inyan of the parsa. וגם יש בחינת פרסה בין ערן ספר מייצר ובין האצילus. We'll see about that later on, that there are many parsois and many madrigas in parsois. Parsois בין האצילus לאילmus הנברואים, what they're called parsois בין האצילus לביאה, they're called the van Sandal ועוד עניונים. And then there's also parsois between למעלה מהאצילus to Atzilus. And they're slightly different in the way that they function. That's what we'll see later on. Is Masber the Rebbe Dinyan of the Parsois. V'nimshach oyer al idei the Tzimtzum and the Parsa, nimshach oyer shehu be'erech leislavish b'bchinas keilim liyesh b'bchinas ha'pnimi. Well, that causes that the oyer is instead of being oyer aseivev, what we saw that Rotzen is connected with her Aseivu Kalalmin, that's moved off from any Gilui but Pnimia. Now the Ur becomes able to be Mislavish in the Kalim, and it becomes an Ur Pnimi. A Kalim imi yosam pchinas Gvu, even though the Kalim are Indian from Gvu, particularly according to the Alter Rebbe, Harim Mikol Mochim Hein Elakus Mamish. Now this is already a new inyan which it becomes a key svara here. That the Kalim, even if we'll say they're Gvul, like the Rizal and the Alter Rebbe, that the Kalim are Mamish Gvul, nonetheless, he said they are divinity, they are Mamish Elakus. Shegam l'das ha'etz chayim, she'ema she'hem p'chinas Gvul umida, not just koyach ha'gvul, like the Pardes, but the mamish gvul umida, harehem pchinas elakus mamish, they are divinity absolutely. Akamesh kosu bedrush shittas arav machem reikanti perakvot. But in the works of the Samech Tes, it's hidden away in the Torah in different places. A certain famous Maimon that he wrote like Bure Shittas, Bure Inyonim. That's referring to one of those famous, they're very, sort of detailed and full of inyonim in Kabbalah, in Miyashim, all sorts of shailas and kashiyas. So over there in that drush, the Menachem Reikanti, he says that despite the fact that we say, according to the result, that the Kedim are Mamish Gvul Hamida, well, that doesn't disturb them from being Elakut. Ulazais, and due to that fact, Efshel HaKedim Datzila Shahain Elakus, Hagbil B'chinas HaOle Mitzumtzemes Shemeye Ba'atzilas. Omikol Makim, he says, HaKelim Hein Ba'atzm Etzem Mahusam B'chinas Gvul, Oy Koyach HaGvul, according to the Parde, Ba'er Be'etzem Mahusay Hu B'chinas Bli Gvul, Bakshen Itzamtzeim V'nigbal. It's been, how do you call it, it's allowed itself, Nitzamtzeim. It's literally allowed itself to be Nitzamtzeim and limited. Now, says the Rebbe, according to that, Yuvan Mashatil is Mamuta, everything's good. Because the Kelim are already Gvul, and the Oyer is being Mitzamtzeim. Mitzamtzeim in its very essence has been a Inaf and Tzimtzum and Ha'ora. Yimamel al Pizeh Yuvan, it gets good. So we need to understand it's very mystifying and very puzzling to the intelligent reader. How can you say that the Oyer is become Mamish Pnimi, and it's been Nigbal and Nitzamtzeim, And yet, nonetheless, you say that בעצם מהות היו פלינס בלי גבול, רק שניתנתם ונגבל. I mean, it's like two absolutely contradicting words. There's bli gvul, oh yeah, only it's become nigbal. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And that nuance has been coming through the Lashonos all the way down. You know, we've been saying that the kelim are magbil, or masapris, or magbil, and they are bli gvul. I know we say the Eres are really pshitas, the Eres are magbilim. The whole time we've been openly dancing on both of the chasanas. On the one hand it's gvul, the other on the other hand it's bli. And with the kelim, we've been saying that despite the fact that they are mamish gvul, nonetheless they're able to be a keli to the oil, which is able to be mislavish and pnimi, and we say that they're able to be magbil, they're bli gvul, even though they're mamish gvul. We just said that the Rebbe himself asked the question, so we have to, first of all, we have to understand what he brings in now, that the kelim are elokus. And also we need to understand that how can you say that the oyer bli gvul, the oyer bilti bagvul, becomes nitamtim and it becomes gvul, but it's really bilti bagvul. So the emphasis is that it's going to become fully answered, and the teretz hamolei there will be a little bit later on. We might even touch on it this evening, on the teretz hamalei, reaching the final maskon. This we're holding le'ei sato just in order to get the kivun. At the dvarim, we the ura bilti bagvul, there are two inyonim in that. One is the etzem mahusa the ura bilti bagvul, what pshitas. He's poshut v'tachas pshitas. Eishehu meya me'amoke atzmi shalei. I feel that the others are in Achla, Gabi Atzils for Lamata, they are Betalchas Pshitas. What does it mean, Pshitas? We've already explained this on different occasions. The Pshitas means completely divorced and abstract from any form of detail or any form of harakova, any form of made-upness or being constructed or being put together of details or inyonim musuyomi. No, it's just absolutely pshitas. So, mover, something which is so totally pshitas is bli gvul, because there's nothing in it which could possibly limit it. And therefore, when we say actus hapashuta, or we say the rotzen hapashut, whenever we use those expressions, but again, to the Eibusha, we mean absolutely unlimited, beyond any form of tuichan in those inyonim which can in any way limit them, or in any way guide them in any direction, or be mamshit them, but boifim masuyam. They're just l'mayla mikol hagebola, and therefore they're bli hagebola, they're bli gvul. And that's the immediate in from Peshitas. And then there's another, we see, what we saw, the Harikot Ramban. He told that you can have anything which is called ain't safe lehispash to say. You can have something which has already got in itself ainian musuyam. Dainu, he wanted to say that the kli of chesed is a dova musuyam, it's chesed, but it's ain't safe lehispash, ain't safe lehispash to say. So we see that there's another musig that something can be already how to call it, a dova mesuyam, but it can also go at bli gvul. We can design. So we have to say that we'll soon see in the second decision from Elakus comes in here. Of a core of a poshet neifen, we see that, for example, if you take a mayon here, Amitius Amuvan of a mayon to Olamata, then we see that a mayon is water that comes in the form of tipping, it comes in the form of limited drops, And yet those drops, by definition, they go ad lohidor chadosh. In other words, they go until ad ein sof. In other words, because they're makushorim mima tahuim, and they're really agili the tahuim, they just go ad ein sof, and therefore Amayon has got himself all sorts of segulas, benegel tahara, and all sorts of inyonim which even a mikveh doesn't have. Therefore, we see that there's such a thing as something being mugbal of a mitzad, the skashas and the yichud in Elokus mamish, then it can be ad ein sof leis pash to say, even though each drop of the water is a inyan miyuchad. So we could say that those are the Ramban, and those who hold that the ein ochanam, the spheres are mugbolim, but the spheres can go ad ein sof. So we have to say that the spheres can go ad ein sof, not mitzad pshituso, not mitzad erinon pshitas, or they can go mitzad the fact that they're still miyuchad with Elokus, or to use the expression here, we can say that they are Elokus, that they're still Elokus. And Mamir is something which is Elokus, has in itself, or those two aspects. It can be on the one hand limited inyan, yet on the other hand it can still be ein sof leis pashtus, but not mitzad the immediate atzmius of Elokus, which is pshitas, no mitzad the fact that sof kosof, it's still Elokus. It's not a dover nivdal me Elokus. What is it? In Elokus kufa, das is the inyan what the Pardes calls koecha hagvul. And Mamira, in the Eivish, the koecha hagvul is also unlimited. All the inyonim are in the Eivish are believable. And Mamira, even gvul is believable. The immediate are inyan shaboy. In other words, that the Eibishter's gvul is not that he's limited in the gvul. He can, als the Eibishter, he can produce a gvul also. Or since he's the Eibishter, then he can produce a gvul any old way he likes, and Dino, he can make it ad ein sof. He just make it, you name it, we got it. I mean, as much as you want, he'll give you a gvul. That's the inyan of the Moshe I gave you, the Mayon, and that's what the Alter Rebbe means here, that there can be two inyanim. There can be a inyan which is still ein sof, Uya is still mi'ein amoya, it's still ein sof, even though it's already been nistamtein v'nigbal, it's not pshitas anymore. It's already been limited into a certain inyan, what according to the Alter Rebbe, it's already been limited mamish into a chesed mugbal. And the Ramban makes it a little bit easier to understand. It's not really mugbal, it's just a inyan. But that inyan can go ad ein sof for words, because this is kufa Elokus. In other words, that in Elokus, gvul is not mugbal. In other words, how do they say it over here? There's an expression, be'ruvan mugbal, they're proprietary limited. That means this is limited. It is very so. But it's gvul of not mamish gvul. And that's the trick of calling it, or trick, chas v'sholom, that's the argument and the development in the whole picture of saying that the kelim are Elokus. That since they're Elokus, they can show gvul, but it's gvul the way the Eivishter shows you gvul. It's gvul, and the chiddush of the Alter Rebbe is absolutely nifla. The Alter Rebbe and the Rizal they say that it's mamish gvul, and afu pikein, it can still be a kli to the uya, which is ein sof leis pashtus, albeit not bilti bal gvul, the pshita has been taken away by the tzimtzum, and also by the paraseh. Over it's still ein sof leis pashtus. Whatever you've got in Elokus, it just goes unlimitedly. And why is that? Because they are Elokus. It's like the old inyan which I brought down into my mind that I showed you, that I told you to learn al kaparim. But the Rebbe brings over there, benegir to the inyan of the kelim, but they're the inyan from koyach hagvul. And we say that they're not mamish mastir. That the inyan from lamayla me'atzilus, in Atzilus Kufa, there's no Helen Vehester on Elokus. And the truth of the matter is that there's no Helen Vehester on Elokus Klau. because even the Hestadim are all rak legavi the Mekablim. And the Rebbe brings over there, they're talking about that Isha, Adam, as Meisim, Es Yodai, Al Reishai, then in Shulchan Aruch, Chaim, when Simon Tzadik Beis is brought down, that's not considered a Kisui HaReish Beneget to Knesset Beis HaKnesset, or L'Tfila Beis HaKnesset, or Tfila Beklal, Lav Dafkin Beis HaKnesset. In other words, that you can't cover yourself, because your hand and yourself are the same. Etzem. Your head and your hand are just different Eifanim of the same etzem. Your hand and your head are the same you. Therefore, you can't ein ha'etzem mailim al ha'etzem. That's what's written over there. The one a part of the etzem can't be mailim af a tweede etzem. Or tweede part of the etzem, not a tweede etzem, the tweede part of the etzem. And if you put your hand on your head, this helped us garnish. However, if you already got a cover on your head, the Hoshein Ein cover, already a hefsik, which is yer mafsik, then if you put your hand on it, then b'David, b'Takwetch, we can consider it yer a covering. And therefore, b'Leis Pera comment. If you already got you could do something like that. If you already got a kippah on the head, and that's considered that was beneget a kisui sheni, which is on yahida v'chulu. And if lefisa come to us that which is the same that can't be mastir all that. It's all the same that. And come to us that what's happening here is that we say that the kelim are elakos. Yeah. And all they are is just another gilui of the Eibishter. They are him, just like the Bligel was him. But since they're him, then he's not Beruhan Mugbal. He is not proprietary limited. Anything which are the Eibishter is just unlimited, absolutely, just by its definition. Yeah, not the pshitas, but the in and of Ein Sof. Nothing is limited. Just mitzad the pure in of the Ein Sof. And if you can have gvul ad Ein Sof, or you can have mamish gvul being a kli to the Ein Sof. Mamish kli being a kli to the Ein Sof, because it's all different aspects of the same etzem. And therefore they're not mailim and they're not mastir. They are, but they aren't. They're magbil, but they're not. That's how it's saying. We'll see a little bit further as we go along. The Eibishter remains, even though he's what the Alter Rebbe writes in the Hagor, Alidei Tzimtzumim Rabim. It's still called. The Rambam still says Huve. Chok Masei Echad. This is still who, even though it's Alidei Tzimtzumim Rabim, that the others come down and been Mishyachet with Chokmah. Nonetheless, Huve Chok Masei Echad, because those Tzimtzumim are not Meshana. Even the Kli Chokmah itself is not goyim any shinui or helem or hester legabi the Rebbe. He still remains completely what he is, the kol shleimusay, because those inyonim not master legabi him or not master legabi alakus, because alakus can't be master afela. In other words, it's only just two nuances of the same etzem. That's one aspect of the etzem. That's right. And if the Alter Rebbe says that it's Tafki because they are Elakus. And therefore he said, once he said the word that they are Shein Elakus, therefore he said Mikol Mokim. Oh, now you may understand what we've been saying that Mikol Mokim, the Inyan Agvur, the Kelim are Inyan Agvur. And there is also Inyan from Bligvul, he knows being Mitzantu. And that's almost like Mamish. They're saying one thing and saying the opposite in the next mouthful. And if we see that once I've answered you that they're Elakus, Mamish, that's the difference between them and the Nivroim. In Bia, as Anachnu Fayicholim, to define the Alpizeh, that's what he now says. Yuvan Masha Alpizeh. Once we've got to this factor in the argument, Yuvan Masha Atzilus Mamutza Beinei and Seif HaMaitzel Elani Dehine B'chinas HaKelim D'Atzilus B'chinas Medu Gvul V'Yal Choponim B'chinas Koyach HaGvul. Yeah. Umiko mokim harihem elakus mamish. They are mamish elakus. Shezehu masha atzilus muvdo be'erev mibiyah. What like we've titled all the time, and it's a klal godel. What is mavdil? What makes atzilus different than biyah? Yes, shehein b'chinas yesh. V'kelim da'atzilus hein berakus. In other words, the doses which look to be a specific entity in biyah, they have to be that way. They are a specific entity, and that's it. Because they're a lost cause. They're a specific entity. There's nothing saves them from being a specific entity. Yesh mi'ayin. They're hidden away from any kesher with Elikus, because they call Elikus ayin. Oh, but the kelim of Atzilus, the kelim of Atzilus are specific, but they're just specific, and it's part of the omnipotent shlemus of the Rebishter. And the fact the Rebbe brings over there in the famous Igeres, he brings over there at the inyan from the kelim of Atzilus heim Elikus atzmei betzimtzum atzum. That's what he says. He said they are Elikus himself, that the Rebishter carry on this. He's been mitzamtzum himself to appear that way. So that's where we should do it. And I tell you, that you're inside Elikus and you're talking in the Eibishter, then you can have both, and it's absolutely no problem. It's just two, or you find him in two aspects of his perfection, and therefore they're not say so one the other. You can say that he's a Ura Bilti Balgvul, even though he's mayor in a Kli Hagvuli, because the Kli Hagvuli is not really master, it's just another form of Gilu, like Abiyim, and therefore they can both get together. Obi and Atzilus, where the inyan of the, in Biyah, where the inyan of the Hakbola is how do you call it, a lone and lost cause. It's just a Dover Mugbal that it came about, Mitzad Yesh, and it says Ayin doesn't have any kesher with Elikus, and therefore it's a Dover Mugbal B'etzem HaMahuz, and therefore, if you fall into the Yesh, then doesn't it get, if you fall into the Yesh, and you live with the Yesh, then you live in a Dover Mugbal. Or if you take everything in the Shurish, and you see how the inyan from Gul is really the Eibishter, then, like I told you once a story that Rebbe told that Yidl, that he said, we're going to get back to Zman in a minute. He said that every minute is they call it an Eilam Mola. Every minute's a full world. There's no real Gvul. You just get back to the Shurish of the Gvul. The Gvul is just another aspect of the Eibishter. It's just ain't safe. The Kosher saying how much more so. That's the way it is in the Kalim, because they're Elikus. Then how much more in the inyan from the Yoshu? People say they say mamish. That's mamish. They say Rashanit Samteim liyesh be'erev b'chinas pnimi lakalim da'atzila u'bahem v'al yodom boim b'chinas mida'u. In other words, through the inyan of the Kalim, the Eures, they become, even from Mida Ugvul. But since the Kalim are, of course, and the Kalim themselves are just a Gilu Eloki, therefore, it doesn't really limit and doesn't really alter the Eur. The Eur only for the sake of the necessity of the Milui Harotzen of the Balabayas, who he's both that and that together, then he brings it into the Eur. He makes the Eur able to unite with the inyan of the Keli, even though it's almost like two opposites, because the Eur, he holds it back and he's mitzamtzim it, and that doesn't change the fact that really that Eur is bli Vul. Because like we said, the two inyonim and Elikus are not Ma'alim and they're not Mastim, they're not Seisa one the other. In order that he get the inyan from Hagbola in Biyah, then the Eibishter Kilo plays Lagavi the Gilu from the Zach, and therefore the whole thing is one on. The whole inyan of the Elamus and even the Mailam of the Elamus is all a form of a game. It's like this amazing as it were, spiel with all the Nivroim, with us included. We're the biggest, as it were, parts of that gang, because we mamish live in the Inn of Yesh Kipshute. Well, not Kipshute, but we're victims of that whole Inn. That the Eibush doesn't really tempt him anything. He only makes it look that way, like the Nivroim. Well, he remains what he is, and the Keglim are just another part of his omnipotence and shleimus. Therefore, they're not mailim or much. They don't really alter the fact that he remains bleak vul. In other words, you can't say that up till the end of Atzilus the Eibush is the bleak vul, and then from then on the Eibush is not bleak vul. He became the tzumtzum der Eibush. Cholila. Everything is bleak vul after Atzilus picked the Zevi, lived near Atzilus. It's all just like Gabi. It's like in the game, it's like inside the arena for the sake of the Mekablim, that they should appear and they should feel that a different Gvul. And the truth of the matter is that we're not Gvul either. I mean, the emphasis is that this is another wondrous Gilu of the whole Kol Yochel of the Eibishter. Amamel Kunta is that if you want to be L'mayla Mi'agbola, you can. So get cracking. You have to try, but you have to watch it. You have to be careful. You have to be careful not to break the lines of how do you call it? Because the Eibishter wanted, for some reason or another, he wanted there should be the proper care of the body alidei manucha of such inyonim gam kein b'diuk. Why he wanted this is another shmuels. Therefore, we see by the Nasias in the Midbar, it's written Vayisu Vayachanu. It's written that when it describes, when it lists out the whole 42 journeys, it doesn't just say Vayisu, 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 Vayisu. It's written Vayisu Vayachanu. B'mokim ploini. Vayisu mimokim ploini Vayachanu b'mokim ploini. Was it? Mazir Manian, I'll tell you what they did when they got to mokim ploini. Why is it done? Because the Vayachanu is an essential part of the Vayisu. But, once again, not to be taken too literally. If people say, oh, well, the Yachanu, that's part of the Vayisu. Slof ganz in a tag, and I'll be Mekayim the Vayachanu. When I'm finished with the Vayachanu, I'll start off with the Yisu. Or I'll take a trip round to Ronnie's or something, and I'll put my feet up round there and sit there for a couple of good hours or something, and have a good shmued, and a good kavim, and all sorts of good inyanim. I don't know. I mean, that's gesundheit. It's about chafay. It's lishel. It's actually part of the vayachanu, but mir anyway, Lafisa complains. Maybe we could say in another oifen. Yeah, we could say in another oifen a dover pillar, and later it's going to become. I'm just sort of trying to keep you guys like in the picture before we get to the ultimate terms. It shouldn't be too muksha, the whole thing. And then we could say that here there's dafki in this whole union in Ishtalvus of Kli is Mizgala the Emesa omnipotence, the Emesa Kol Yochel of the Eibishter. I know it's not enough just to say that the Eibishter can produce Gvul just like he produces bleak Gvul. The Emesa omnipotence is to say that he can be both at the same moment. In other words, he can be bleak Gvul even when he's uniting with the Gvul. And you can say that on the contrary, that is the shleimus of the Eibishter's omnipotence, that he's still what he is, even though he's dwelling with these two things together at that moment. And what is helping them to come together, dafki the fact of his omnipotence. I mean, it's all him. And that's what the Avedis HaKodesh means with that famous statement. When the Avedis HaKodesh says that the Gvul hanimtzo mimenu tchila, that's the spirit, that's Tchilas. That's what he means. That he said, he writes further the Avedis HaKodesh. He said, כי אם אתה אומר שיש לו כוח בבלתי בעל גבול, אבל אין אתה אומר שיש לו כוח בגבול, הרי אתה מחסר את שלמותו, יסבורך. This state to listen in the way. You're lacking in shleim. If you say the Abish can only do gvul at one go, or he can maybe do gvul, bli gvul. He can only do bli gvul at one go, or you can do gvul at one go. Then you're mechasser shleimusay. You got to have when they both merge together and they're one shleim. Oh, this is shleimusay. And if you want to say, oh no, that's going to die, then you're mechasser shleim. And that's what we're seeing here. That the Alter Rebbe's teretz is because Atzilus is a cause ain't kushia. I get it up the whole in. Is remember you can have the believable, and it's just a einochanami for the sake of our understanding. The Eivishter didn't put the pshitas into the kelim which are mamish gugim. Pshitas and gul together, that would be too much for the minds to understand. And therefore, our Indian, the Eivishter was mitzamtzim the pshitas, and he left only the Ein Seif as it were. And in the Ein Seif, together with the gvul, it's poshet that the omnipotence can carry both. And unconscious, that's the shleimus. And if I said the Rebbe Lachein, our esses filas ta'atzilas, shayich loima shahein b'chinas mamutza. Therefore, we can say that they're mamutza, even in the inyan of the rotzim. Lefisha b'china aleph, in one hein doimin kaviyochu lahamaitu hein teiparuchu v'zeh shahein elikus mamish. Yeah? In one inyan kloli, and this is inyan kloli. He said they're doimim to the Eibester, the elikus mamish, v'loikemoy anivroim shahein b'chinas yesh mi, they're hidden from elikus, they're out there on their own, yesh mi ayin. Over here it's elikus pagolui. And if he said they're all elikus. He said, Mashenkein as the spirit atilas ein elikus mami. And Omer said to Rabbi, that's become our whole, as it were, key word now. Our key word, elikus is atilas is elikus. V'afu pikein me'achar shehein b'prinas midu ugvul. Since they are in for midu ugvul, lefi divrei Arizal v'Alter Rebbe, im yeshezehu mitad elikus atzmei, even though that's mitad also, like we just quoted you from the Igeras HaKodesh of the Alter Rebbe, Masha elikus atzmei naase b'prinas matias mugbal, that's what he brings over there, that's the koyach of the gvul in elikus mamish. Or Masha who is barak metamtzem oire, sorry, if I remember that's the gvul part of it. Or Masha who is barak metamtzem oiroi, and that's what he takes his oir in a form of a tzimtzem lahoyer b'chinas gvul v'tachlis. And I remember come to this the spheres of Atzilas on the one hand where Masha who nase b'chinas Matthias mugbal, and they're also what is metamtim or magbil de oyer, that it should be meir b'chinas gvul v'tachlis v'im kein ein ze klal be'erach ha'gvul u'midah debi. Now that's all another thing. And I'm going to come to that here we're seeing now another word, but that makes it even more mystifying, and that is that the Rebbe says that that's what he's metamtim his oyer lahoyer b'chinas gvul v'tachlis. That oyer is able to be meir b'gvul v'tachlis. So here we see that he's mamish continuing the biur lefi shitas Arizal v'Alter Rebbe, because they say that that's mamish gvul. Not only is it gvul, but the Alter Rebbe said that it's got in itself a inyan for tachlis. Now you notice in Perek Mem Ches in Tanya, he keeps using that expression. Kama Makim, when he talks about the Pnimi and about the Kelim and the Nivroim, he uses the expression Kama Piyomim in Tanya. It's very common. Yeah, B'chinas Gvul v'Tachlis. And we're going to say B'chinas Gvul. What's the meaning for Tachlis? Now, Tachlis is from the word kiloin, meaning end. Tachlis means an end, a finality. But as we've explained on numerous occasions in these classes, the word tachlis also implies a certain goal or a certain aim that we're aiming at. There's some sort of limited idea. Like talking with someone and he suggests to you some sort of Indian that you're not really sure what he means, what's it going to be worth? And so you said, what's it the tachlis? What's the point of it all? What are you really aiming at? What are we going to get from that? Rafa says the Rebbe, in Atzilas, according to the Alter Rebbe, you can not only have gvul, but you can also have gvul the tachlis. There's already a certain limited Indian in the Kalim, what they're already shaykh to Ashpoah, and they're already ready to become, as it were, Makoiris for the Indian of the Yesh and Biyah. So that we can say that they have not only gvul, they've already got an Indian of tachlis, which is already shaykh more to the Indian Hebrew, more than what it is to say Dover Kazeh Batzila. And the Far says the Alter Rebbe, no, that the Indian from Atzilus has already got in itself even that Indian, that it's already kilo a limited aiming entity that's already going in a certain limited uftu direction. After became we say that the oil is able to be mayor into the Indian, and it's a kli to the Indian of oil is born. So we see then that there's this wondrous merging of these two inyanim. On the one hand, even gvul v'tachlis, with an inyan of oil which still remains ain't safe. We even call it bli gvul, it still remains ain't safe, even though it's already been this time into that inyan that the oil is able at least to enter a tachlis. It's even going to unite with a certain tachlis. So therefore, said the Rebbe, it comes out of he said that this can only be mitzad Elokus. Like we just said, mitzad the omnipotence of Elokus. Azam mitzotah. Ve'im kain, now here comes the big argument, now here comes the big question. Ve'im kain, ein ze klal be'erech ha'gvul ha'mida debi. Im kain, this is nothing like gvul ha'mida in biyah. Da ha'gvul de biyah hu b'chins gvul hechreichi. שהוא בחינת גבול ממי. מה שאין הגבול דאצילס, אין זה גבול הכרחי חס ושלום. דגם הכלים דאצילס, הרי זה רק מה שאלוקוס עצמי, נעשה בחינת מהוס חוכמה וחסד. אם כן, הרי אין זה הכרחי חס ושלום. כי אם מה שהגביל את עצמי כביכול, לי בחינת חוכמה כולו. כל שכן, a gvul de oirois, how much more so the gvul of the oirois, she'ein ze gvul hechreichi, how much more so that's not a hechreach, ki im hagbola ritzvinias. It's a willing hagbola. Oh. So the reason I read those couple of sentences on, because if you remain in the middle, you don't get to the, what you might call the key svara. And that's this difference between hechreichi and retoini. And in the middle, he said the kelim, we've already hinted to you, the kelim, how the Elokus himself becomes a dover mugbal, the hu nase, the Elokus ein seif nase, b'chinas k'u. He can do that because he's noise batzma et kol ha'inyonim, mepnei shehu Elokus. But now he says there's an inyan from hechreichi versus retoini. Now, if you say that something is mukhrach, then that means, to a certain extent, it doesn't have control over its own, what you might call goyro, or its own ultimate uftu. If you say you're compelled to do something, ein lecha shlita. It's not you, it's really the other force. So, ein lecha, you might, let's say you have to do something on a certain day. So you decided to get up at this time, and you decided to do this, you decided to do something else, and this. Over, it's all under this ruling, governing hechreach, that you've got to be in a certain place, you've got to do a certain thing. Imlo, how do they say, ochavei? In other words, you've got to do that, and that's it, and fafal. The kommt is that everything you've done is really under the Hechreach, that you've got to be b'machim plaining, and you've got to do davar plaining, and if you don't do that, then how do you call it, your whole Metzias as it was mushlau. So kommt that everything you did is really under the rule of that Hechreach. Even though it looked as if you had a bit of, you don't really. You have no control over that situation, Cloud. Now let's say, however, it wasn't you that was machriach yourself. I'm sorry. That was something else outside you. It wasn't you that was machriach you. Dainu, some force outside you said you have to be here, and you have to do this, you have to do that. Oh, but let's say that you decided that you are going to do something that was purely your decision, and you are going to do a certain inyan b'meshech yoyim ploini, even though that may involve a certain limitation of your normal seder. In other words, that normally a whole day you learn, or on this particular day, to leave up some andere inyan in kedusha, or is a mitzvah, or is a inyan for mitzvoim, or you decide. Yeah, I mean, whoever decided, it's your rotzen. Yeah, also ish, nefesh eloki, b'Yisrael, you decide that you're going to do kaf v'kaf. You come to you, so when you're now going, it's really you are going, and your learning is going, and everything is going with you, because it's you who decided that you're going to do it. And when you're doing that, you're not limited. That's you. On the contrary, that's your emissary, shleimus of your whole kavanah in life is now expressing itself. Because you understand and you say, that your life has to be called both in yoni, both learning and doing in plaining of plaining. And when you're doing that, you're really continuing learning, or you're continuing davening, because that's all part of your shleimus ha'avona. And if I come to it, you're really davening. And that's maybe one of the biurim that Rabbi Yochanan says, halavai she'yispal adam kol hayom kula. This state in the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan in Masechet Brachos kama piyomim, nicht nur ein Sugya. Der halavai she'yispal adam kol hayom kula. Wie kann ein Mensch daven den ganzen Tag? If you daven the whole day, what's going to be? Where be with the Torah? What's with the Torah? He doesn't say Pam b'chodesh or Pam b'shavua or Pam b'shona. He says halavai she'yispal adam kol hayom kula. Mashma, that's what he means you should do every day. Elamai, that's the pshat that Rabbi Yochanan means that if you convey all your inyonim al pi the rotzim from kedusha, and you say your ikki in Lebanon is davening, for example, yeah, that's your ikki in life. All other things you do, that's just to him. As long as you do them with your will al pi kedusha, then that's just like your davening. Because one inyan in kedusha, one shleimus, can't be master of an andere shleim. And the far come to is that that's what the Rebbe says, that ali day what you do mitzvoim, you really earn in learning. You learn better by doing the mitzvoim than if you didn't. I'm doing the mitzvoim, I'm learning it. Now the pshat is that if you really see how all these inyanim are all part of the same shleimus, that when you learn, when you do a mitzvah or the Rebbe, you're really anyway learning, and who knows, your neshama is maybe gaining certain inyanim from that in learning. You would actually be sitting and learning because those are the inyan amiti of the Adam, how he is B'Tzoini, that's his will. And well, the Baal, this is his will, and that's the will al pi kedusha. It's cradle everything. And nothing can be considered mailim or mashtim. If somebody comes on and says, oh no man, you can't learn. You gotta go and report to this and this office and do this and this. You gotta drain your cup with this and that. That was a mishken. Instead of learning, he's got to go here, he's got to go there, he's got to do something else. That's a called gvul hechreichi. Then he's not a balabas. Everything is really his will. He's the balabas, and the whole inyan is continuing. The rotten is continuing. And if I I once heard from one of my mashpim, Od Yoter Mizeh, that if a man, that he really holds that davening and learning, das ist der Ike im Leben, das ist ein Ike Rotzen, al pi Rotzen, Elokus, al pi Rotzen oder der Eberste. Aber he realized that he's got to eat, darf doch etwas zu essen. He has to look after the goof. He comes to say, when he's actually eating and he's looking after his health, but that goof is learning. He's learning because he's only doing that in order that he should be able to learn even better and even more than that. He's doing it because this is part of the same kavanah of the davening. This is the kavanah lakis in this world that the Rambam says. The goof body is midache Hashem hu. Das ist von der Drochen von der Rebeste. Ich meine, pinkt es wie davenen, es ist midache Hashem. Essen ist echt midache Hashem. Oh, but when a man says, no, but schon mal von hier, ich will nicht essen. Well, it's a waste of time. Ich will fasten, ich will tanazay, and ich will tanazay. In the end comes along the ambulance and the doctor, and they say to him, I'm sorry, man, you gotta eat. Too bad about it, you gotta eat. Oh, gotta eat, what's that? Yeah, helemaal is dat juist. Oh, gotta eat. That's what ik wil graag. Dat is je niet gedaan. I mean, it is, because you're doing the mitzvah, looking after yourself. Oh, it's not your rotten, it's a gvul alecha, it's a low gvul retaining. When you do it, it's also not a gvul. It's not a limitation, klar. This is a van a gvul retaining. A gvul retaining, das ist nicht kein gvul. That doesn't disturb. Aber ich hareg is made the whole shlemus that the rini kamoishu. Say a man the Gemara. The Rebbe says that the gvul, how it is in Biyah, there's a gvul echreichi. It comes along over there in Biyah, and the gvul just comes along and says, listen here, you guys, by definition, you guys are Bali gvul. Das ist the yesh, except if you learn Chassidus. If you learn Chassidus, you will mile me. You guys are gvul, this is Bali gvul. The kelim from Atzilus and the Oirus and Atzilus, they say that what we are Magdala said, that's because we want it, the Eivishter want it, we're guilty with the Eivishter. We want it, we're doing that mitzad our rotzen. Zillah mafresh, but to our real we can believe, we also believe for it. It's all the same. It's the same rotzen. And therefore the rotzen agrees to go through that because it's really getting the same rotzen. And therefore that rotzen is really bleak vul, even though Potorah is a gvul. De gemeente Pidli plöd verein. Dus is mamish killer. Yeah, that's what the Rebbe is saying. And therefore he says, a gvul da Atzilus, ein ze gvul hechreichi. Das ist nicht gvul hechreichi. Aber wenn wir bald sind nicht hechreichi, you can have both together. You can have both together. But it doesn't disturb the bli gvul. The bli gvul is still meir. Rotzen is still meir. The Gama Kelim da Atzilus Azerak Mashelakus Atzmei Nas B'chinas Mahus Chokma V'Chesed. We've already answered. Like the Kelim, it's Kilo the Etzem. You know what Elikus itself goes into Gvul, like the Alter Rebbe says, or then Perikof Aleph, like the snail or the porcupine or whatever you call him. You know, the Gvul and him are all the same thing. That's his house and him are all the same Etzem. You know, that's Elikus Nase. Beginnen Chokma V'Chesed. Im kein Hare Enze Echreichi Ki Ma Shehid Biras Atzmi Kavayochel. Right? He did that himself. Lies begins Chokma V'Koshechen. How much more so the Gvul of the Eire. Yes, Enze Gvul Echreichi. Chas v'Sholem does another Gvul Echreichi. Why? Because they're mamish meya even from believable. How can it possibly be that they can believe all and they can meir in the gvul? He said, because it's a inen that it's not hechreya. Ki im hakbola retaining is the oiris of maskim to that. What do they mean the oiris of maskim? The Eivishter's rotzen guides them to do that. If a male told the rotzen of the Eivishter, it's a gvul retaining. Therefore it's not magbil. Should be emes. That's why we can have two things. We can have our cake and eat it too. On the one hand, we can say it's a takir. Yeah, the oil is meya bigvul. It's a bigvul. It's a bigvul and it's a meya bigvul. Aim is a call bayah. because the bli gvul, even though berega zeh legabi the makablim, it's mugbar, or it's not, because that's really what it wants, and that's what be'emes it needs to, and it wants to do, that if it's the balabait. Pili plots van hem. Mamish pili plots. Like I said, that's a limud in darche ha-aveda, it's a limud in darche ha-kod, ha-drochim, b'chayim, not to, therefore, chassid vet nish mevulbo, you know, a misnagit. If you said, listen, I can't possibly learn for these couple of hours, you got to do mitzvah. You say, if I don't learn, I must not learn. Can it? And so the chassid says, oh, yeah, Eino Chanami, das ist der Rotzen von der Rebbe, und nur darf ich das tun jetzt, das ist nicht meine Masse, Chas, verschoben. Aber der Rotzen, Amiti von der Lernen ist da in dem, pink to say we want to climb. And actually, that'll help in the learning. BS, says BS. That's the difference. If I remember above my mashpeh, he says, I don't mean anything bad. I'm only talking about theoretical people. I mean, the Rebbe said there's no misnagdim anymore. So the Rebbe said that, so Rebbe said that I'm misnagid. He takes the Eivishter and puts him inside the envelope. Like the Eivishter pli gvul, the Eivishter pli sof and all things. He puts him inside the envelope. And on the envelope it's written learn. You know, the Eivishter is in that envelope. If the Eivishter doesn't fit in that envelope, then it's not the Eivishter. And of course it knows that the Eivishter is everywhere, the Eivishter is in everything. And verkehrt, sometimes you do, which it doesn't look to be exactly what you thought. And I'm getting door to the Eivishter exactly as if it would have been learning boys a rigger or a chanila, not to take it, the other way around and say, whoa, yes, if I go out and I just put my feet up and, I puff away with a cigar or something, just to have a good old time, and that's it. Yeah, maybe you need dedication as well. I'm not saying that it can't be on ever in life. Sometimes when Mensch does that, L'Shem Shemayim, he does that as a emzin from V'yachanu, Gamto. Therefore it's hard to find. You can't really find a place where he couldn't imagine as Omeya Zayin. Because it all depends. What's the attitude and how do you see it, boys, as man? The bli gvul and the gvul. Which means that the oil in Atzilus is mamish bli gvul, and yet nonetheless, according to the Alter Rebbe, it can merge into a kli which is gvul, and it's still bli gvul, and it's still gvul, akol oto davar. Or in Biyah, sorry. Biyah is a mishken. Over there, it's already been forced on it. Over there, it's gvul achrei. Comes along, citizens, oh no, there's no achrei anywhere. If you want, you can believe gvul, fill in Biyah. Fill in Biyah. Hey. Those are the Montanic Kinder, Shebe'emes, Arazim Kinder, believe him, Jimmy. Volochim be'emes, Kola Madregas, the Biyah, Ein better klal, afilo legabi b'chinas hayesh achreinu shabatzilus. Therefore, it's not better. 1, 2, the other favors, because in Atzilus everything is mamish elakus and everything is meya, even though it's not meya. I say in the Biyah, either it's meya or it's not. Is if v'gam b'chinas ha'olas Atzilus shemeya b'Biyah, u'bein harek legabi b'chinas ha'kelim d'Atzilus ha'kanam. What does it mean by the b'chinas ha'Atzilus ha'meya b'Biyah? It means Gan Eden. That's what down. In Chassidus, that Gan Eden ha'elin and Olam ha'briya, the American Eden ha'tachton, or they are what's called Gilui ha'Atzilus she'b'Biyah. The Rebbe said that's only a ha'orah, b'derech ha'orah b'ilvad of Atzilus, and it's not k'moy the kelim of Atzilus. It's brought down that the inin of Atzilus she'b'Biyah in Gan Eden, that's only a ziv b'ilvad, and it's only a in of it. Ein arech, afilo legabi the kelim ha'reya in Malchus, alachas kama v'kama, the Amitis ha'kelim ha'reya in Atzilus. Oberfat lefi mashen is boer li'il, da kerem da Atzilus ein rak b'chinas koech hagoyis. According to the Pardes, it's for sure good. In the Pardes, everything is manish really, but golui, it's bli gvul. It's just that it's like an asinus koech. Later, there can be a yishog. Ein achanamil, according to the Pardes, audio teto. מכל מקום, לבייס מבחינת גבול, או כוח הגבול, באיזה איפן שיהיה, וכן האויר, כיוון שזהו מה שניתמצא, לי יש מבחינת גבול ותכליס, אם יש לגבי ביאה הוא בלי גבול ממש, that's amazing, מכל מקום, כיוון שלגבי אויר אין צייף, הוא האור שנצטמצמו, לי יש מבחינת גבול ותכליס, אבל מצד זה אין מזדמן לבחינת ביאה. They are similar to ביאה. ולכן האצילוס הוא בחינת ממוצע. ויש זהו מה שהאינסוף הבלי והוא בו בחינת הבורא it's all מצד זין רוצן. אם אומר ביבל מצד זין רוצן, you can have all the עניינים בתכלס השלמות. It's ain't noch an מגבול, או בבינוס it remains בלי גבול. אין לזה כל סתירה, it's all מני obey from the Rebester himself. And אדרבה, מצד רצינה, you can have both, we brought all them show him earlier. And therefore, ain't noch an he says, Atzilus, he is takia amamutza, because on the one hand it has גבול, and on the other hand it has בלי גבול, ואין בזה כל, אין בזה כל סתירה, ואין בזה כל עניין, שמואר הקושיוס, אדרבה, הכל מסיישב, ובו מקיימי בשולם. That's what happened today. Rosh Chodesh Sivan, all Eden came into the Midbar Sinai, and they all camped around the mountain. And Rashi says, "Kulam keish echad b'leiv, echad lavim sheb'shmayim." All Eden were one in the form of actors. So we have to have actors, guys. We have to do something about it, because it's not good when there's a Shabbos actors and people say, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to that farbrengen because there's a I'm only going to this farbrengen, those actors." Well, I would go over there. There's a lot of trade clubs, a lot of question was. I'm trying to forget. So I farbrengen, Chonilevitze. Yeah, my farbrengen. Oh, this is actors. This is Shabbos actors. My farbrengen. This is it. We have to do something. We always have to stop. We have to be mamshik. The Indian actors kipshuta. You have to see the mile of every. The tone is on. Oh, him? Oh, he's an amoli. It must stop. You have to stop all these lashanas. Got to stop. You have to try and mamish be actors. Therefore, we have a big mission here at the Bochum and Tonka. We've got to find out to be mamish one with them and understand them and be nice to them. We are only teivu chesed, nishka shalchus because it's all chetrim. We have a certain thing that we feel that's a great gift we receive from the Eibishter. Well, we can't make sort of appeals to the emotions. You know, you can't say, "Ooh, everybody who's got any sense agrees with me." Once you've done that, you've already dropped out of the whole idea of genuine argument or genuine exchange of ideas. Because the poor guy thinks, "Oh, if I don't know with him, then I'm not normal." You know? He loses his whole. He becomes mavulba, and that's not argument, and that's not showing one another the right way. That's just belaboring and injuring one the other. And if I am as artist says, I hear what you say, Havana, Hadodi is mutual understanding. So as to be, I don't see any, I can't figure what's holding up the whole of these colors. There's so much has been achieved. It's this little weeny, unbelievable worm, you know, that's sort of eating still away at certain inyonim in Levaritz, and it seems to me that that's the way we've got to match be Megalativ or Chesed Lako. Everybody. Malay Christmas Shalmita Banai, we've got to say forgive everybody on all the inyonim actors. This is the meeting saying. Have a good night, gentlemen. And Hashem, we hope it will be not the tikkun